If you're tired of shows like Chef's Table or maybe Top Chef, very, very serious, confident chefs making perfect dishes, oh, we have the show for you.
All right, Heather, you were the one wearing the golden baker's cap. You were the one to watch. Just to remind you, this is what you were trying to recreate. Let's see your perfect recreation. Nailed it. Ah. Oh, I don't mean to laugh, but what is happening? Ooh, girl, it is leaning.
Well, I overfilled my cakes, and it took way too long for them to bake, and then they were too hot, and I didn't have enough time to really cool them down before I started icing things.
Okay.
What? I mean, WTH, that was so gross. The Netflix show nailed it.
Oh my goodness, she tried.
Subs out the serious chefs for amateur bakers with questionable track records in the kitchen, and the show does not shy away from pointing out their dessert-making fails. The contestants are tasked with recreating edible masterpieces, and they compete for a $10,000 prize.
And famed pastry chef Jacques Torres is a judge on the show, and he's joining us here. Are you having fun doing the show or what?
Oh my God, we laughed for 2 days. I see things in the show that I never see before in the kitchen. It's fun.
So, how did you find these contestants?
There was it's a screening, and I think the contestant was picked according to their knowledge of baking, but also to how fun they are.
The personality.
The personality. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important, to have that chemistry between them and with us, and they are willing to try anything, and it's a fun show.
Yeah.
You just laugh, all the time, so it's a fun show.
There must be times where you're sitting there and you're pulling out your hair and you just want to jump in and say, no, you can't do that. Like I saw one episode, you can't fill the cake batter all the way up to the top, and you know what's going to happen. Is it hard to hold yourself back?
It is, and especially that they fill their mold all the time. They put that in the oven. It takes too long to bake, and then after they have to assemble the cake when it's warm, and you see the cake leaning and falling, and it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? But in another way, you cannot really help them too much because you want to see what they can do.
Right.
So it's part of the show.
Yeah.
Do you ever taste some of these creations? Because one of the things that people who watch these shows, most of the chefs on them, when they eat something that somebody's made, generally they go, this is disgusting. Yeah. You don't seem that you're like that type of guy.
It did happen once where I think the contestant put salt instead of sugar. And I was like, I turned red, like, oh my God, I need to spin that thing.
Yeah.
But in general, we do taste, a little bit of it and say what we think. And the funny part is some of those cake was still warm with the buttercream on top. I mean, that was fun. That was fun. That was funny. Things that I never see before.
You're a guy you've risen to the top of your field. Obviously, you're passionate and very good at what you do.
Thank you.
I just wonder what it's like to watch this sort of bastardization of these amazing recipes. I mean, does it hurt you in your pastry chef soul?
What? That gives me an opportunity to tell you how to succeed, to tell the competitors, okay, look, this is what you did. It's fine. The first time that you ride a bicycle, you fail. The second one, you fail again, but eventually you succeed. Let me tell you how to do it. Let me tell you how you're going to succeed. And don't worry, you fail 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, eventually you're going to do it well. So this is my job. My job is
that what
to
happened
teach.
to you?
That's what happened to me.
Out?
I failed maybe more than anyone else because I did those things more than a lot of people.
Right.
So yes, I did fail. And when you fail, you learn the parameters of the recipe. You learn how much you can do this or that, and then the recipe come together, and then you succeed, and it feels really good.
Well, I like the show so much because I live it often. I'm always experimenting in the kitchen trying to. So not too long ago, I was really into these Japanese pull-apart breads, and they turn the breads into characters, right? So that on the right-hand side, that's what I was going for. See the black and white thing?
I can think. You don't have to describe.
On the other side, you can tell who did it. So I was being inspired.
It's cute. Look at that.
So the inspiration came from my cat and my dog. I have a white dog and a black cat. And I think there's another picture because I don't need you to judge my stuff.
What are those pink things on
That's
the cat?
my cat. That's her ears. Judging me. Now
What is that?
That's supposed to be her in bread form.
Oh, I thought this was a different.
Now, I will say, it's very difficult to please that cat in general, so I don't know if you can, take too
Was
much
it
of that
meant
picture.
for her to eat, or that's human food?
No, my husband was doing a comparison
Oh,
just
okay,
to
right.
rub it in when I was like, I don't think this is working out. He goes, really? Let me check it out. Yeah.
You should ask your husband to do it and see what he can do,
There you
maybe.
go.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
it.
But because baking, it's not like cooking, right? Cooking is, I feel like even amateur chefs can experiment when they cook, because if it says, a teaspoon of salt, maybe you mix salt and paprika and you come up with your own concoction. Whereas baking, there seems to be a lot more, it's more chemistry.
There's science.
If you don't nail the cooking times, if you don't nail the right amount of yeast,
You're right.
You're in trouble.
So I have something to say about that. We professionals make as much mistake as anyone else, but we see those mistakes coming and we correct them. So we see something is going on, so we're going to correct it, and at the end of the recipe going to be okay. Amateur, people who doesn't bake much, they don't see those mistakes happening and they have a big failure at the end. So we make mistakes, we just learn how to correct them.
Ooh, that's a good little
what's a
secret.
good advice for somebody? So let's talk about a mistake that generally people sometimes do. When they're baking a cake, they either the heat is too high or it's too low. How do you correct in the midst of that? Because once the chemistry starts to happen, it's hard to come back.
More
right?
full a mold going to be, lower the temperature going to be, because it takes longer to cook the center. If it's too hot, the side going to burn. So that's a rule. Don't make the oven too hot if you have a lot of batter. If you have a little batter, make it hot. You want to seize that cake, so it's going to stay nice and soft. So it's all those little rules that you learn as you go.
Ooh.
And then, you
really
don't
good,
always
yeah.
need to look at the recipe book. You just know it after that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm inspired. I heard everybody in the control
Is
room,
taking
they're
notes.
taking notes. Now I'm brave enough to go back in the kitchen, but not on your show.
There's also another thing that they always talk about, the idea of the yeast is still actually, you sometimes have to let it sit before you go on to the next thing, whether it's putting the cream on it or something. What is the science behind that?
Okay, the science behind it is that flour contains protein, more elasticity. If you make bread with yeast, you need elasticity. It's like a chewing gum. You put air on it, it just blow up. What's bread? Bread is that elasticity dough that ferment inside. So you have all those bubbles of air. Those bubbles of air make the bread rise. Now, if you make a cake, you don't want the cake to be chewy and elastic. So you want a cake flour, low in protein, with no much elasticity. So you need to pick the right flour, and then you need to know if it's a bread, then you need fermentation. If it's a cake, you don't need fermentation. You need to learn the basics. When you know those basics, it's a lot easier. When you understand that, it's a lot easier.
We just took a lesson from
I
the
know,
master.
and I'm already lost.
I know, but this was really great. Jacques Torres, thank you so much for coming by. We
Merci.
appreciate it. You can watch Nailed It on Netflix right now.